We're
And
live.
we're live. Well, so today's broadcast. So I'm doing a series of live broadcasts to celebrate 400 episodes of my podcast. So what I've been doing is bringing in my old podcast guests, and by old I don't mean old. I
I
mean
was about to say.
people. I'm not being offensive here, but people who have been guests on my podcast before. And Ian has been a guest on my podcast twice, which is fantastic. And so every day at 2 o'clock in April, I'm bringing on a previous guest just to talk about their specialist subject and a way to celebrate 400 episodes, because I'm publishing my 400th episode tomorrow. So this is Ian Anderson Gray, and we're actually doing something really clever. This is what's so cool about today's broadcast, is that Ian, his thing is live video. So we're actually streaming, we're streaming to the moon and everything. Like, we're streaming on every platform. We're on we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're everywhere today, aren't we? And that's fantastic. So couple of things. I'm not able to see whether we've got anyone joining us yet, Ian. I normally say for replay viewers, it does normally take a few minutes, doesn't it, just to get everybody in. I don't know if we've got anyone joined us yet, Ian. Can you see that your end?
Yeah. Well, can you see on the top left-hand corner? Does it show you the numbers 7 or 8?
I can't see that at the moment, actually. But I mean,
Okay.
I can have a look on. I'm looking at it on my Facebook now.
We are. So yeah, we're using Streamyard, which is a tool for this, and so I can see that currently we've got 12 people watching on Facebook and YouTube, I think, and Periscope, and then on LinkedIn we've got 4 people. But hopefully that'll rise over time. And I can also see Martin Buckland is here from Toronto, so that's great. Thank you. And we've got Samantha Hill watching. So awesome.
Okay. So what we'd love you to do, so before we get into our chat about, being confident on live video, and also we're going to talk about tech. So those of you who like tech and tools, before we get into that chat, what I wanted you to do, if that's okay, is just to introduce yourself in the chat. Also, Ian's going to be sharing some resources during this broadcast. So some of his lead magnets, and we've got blog posts and all sorts. So Sam, who is my trusty community manager, she's going to share a link in the comments that will allow my very clever messenger bot to deliver all of that to you. So Ian is going to mention some lead magnets, he's going to mention some kits, some tools, some blog posts. So if Sam, you could share that link in the chat, that would be brilliant. And then people can click on that and they can get into my clever messenger bot, will deliver that to them. So that will be fantastic. And maybe Ian, you could put that link up on the screen as well when it comes into the chat. Because I know you're dead clever, you'll be able to do that.
I think I can do that, yeah.
Fab. So what would be really great is if you could introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you are from in the world. With these things, generally, it takes a few minutes to get everybody in on the replay. If you're watching on the replay, and get everybody to introduce themselves. And then we're going to get into some chat about live video. And what would be lovely to know is, out of 10, how would you rate your confidence on live video? What mark would you give yourself for live video? It'd be interesting to get your thoughts. And Sam's just shared that link. I don't know if you could just pick that up and put it on the, I don't know if you could pick that link up and put it on the screen so that people can see the link where you can get anything that Ian talked about today, any of the resources, any of the blog posts that you mentioned, you can get all of that there. So yeah, it'd be good to know how you rate yourself with live video. I know a lot of people find it quite challenging. So it would be good to know, how would you rate yourself? And Ian and I are quite different. We've got quite different attitudes and approaches to live video. I'm just go live and see what happens. Whereas Ian is, he's more measured and more organized than I am. So we'll talk about that. So anyway, I've been sort of dribbling on for the last few minutes. One thing I would ask you to do as well is, could you please share this broadcast? So if you could hit the share button, if you're finding these valuable. I've been going live every day at 2 o'clock to celebrate 400 podcast episodes. Can you believe that I've actually recorded 400 podcasts? What kind of idiot does that? But my 400th podcast episode is going live tomorrow. So that's what this is all about. That's why I've been going live with my guests every single day. Oh, and by the way, if you type live video, it works. My bot works, even though we weren't sure whether this was going to work, because we are broadcasting, Ian set the broadcast up from his page because he's so clever. I said before, we're broadcasting to the moon and everything. We're on every platform, aren't we? We're going live everywhere. But if you type live video into the chat on Facebook, it will deliver that to you. So I'm going to just hand over to Ian now and would you mind just giving everybody a bit of an intro to yourself? And then we'll start talking about live video. Is that all right?
Yeah, and just a little tip with the bot, that will only work if you're watching on Janet's page. It won't work on if you're watching on my page. Or but if you just click on that link which we've just added, I think that will open up the bot. So it's all cool. So yeah, sorry, what were you asking me? You're asking me to introduce myself.
I was just asking you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. I was getting too excited by the technology. So yeah, well, my name's Ian Gray. I am based in just near Manchester in the UK, and I help entrepreneurs to level up their impact, authority, and profits using the power of confident live video. And I think the key is in the word confidence, because I think a lot of people struggle either with the confidence in front of the camera, or with the technology, or with the content and marketing. And my background, I trained as a professional classical singer around 20 years ago. Oh my goodness, that dates myself. And but I've always been passionate about technology. I'm a geek, but I do have social skills, which is always good. And I've been blogging and producing content really for the best part of 10 years online. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Fab. And we're going to talk about live video today, about being confident on live video. We're also going to talk tech. So those of you who are a little bit geeky, we can share some of the tools that we use and some of the things that Ian uses, but we're also going to reassure you don't have to use fancy tech at all. So a couple of things I'd ask you to do before we get into our chat. So please hit share wherever you are. If you hit share this broadcast, then more people will be able to hear it, which will be amazing. A couple of other things. If you're watching on my page, Janet Murray, if you type live video into the chat, then you will be able to get delivered all of the resources that we talk about today. So Ian's going to share some helpful resources with you. And if you're watching elsewhere, then Ian will put up in the screen, I haven't told him this, but in a second he's going to put up a link for you on the screen that you can follow. When he's answered his phone, he'll do that. And then we'll also put a link in the chat where if you're not on my page, you can still access all of the resources that we're going to talk about today. So that's live video.
Pro tip number 1, silence your phone before you go live.
Okay, so let's talk about, if you haven't hit share, by the way, hit share on this video so we can get it out in front of more people. So let's talk about
just
live.
let you know, Janet, we've got loads of comments on LinkedIn, so if I can bring in some comments from LinkedIn when you're ready, just to let you know.
Oh, fab. Okay, brilliant. So let's talk live video then. So a lot of people feel nervous about live video, and a couple of people have said in the chat that they feel a little bit nervous. Can you talk a little bit about why people feel nervous, and then maybe we can talk about some strategies for getting around it?
Yeah, well, there's loads of reasons why people feel nervous. I think one of them is, I think we're worried about being judged. I think we're worried about that. It's this, what I call looking like an idiot syndrome. I think we're worried about looking like an idiot, and then we're worried about people thinking bad things about us. And this goes back to childhood. You know, where maybe some of us were bullied or teased and stuff. And so it still kind of comes into adulthood, really. And it's interesting, I had a psychologist on my show talking about this, and it is a big problem. So that's one thing. And yeah, we can be perfectionists. We're wanting to make things as perfect as possible. And of course, in that situation, we end up not doing anything. We end up not pressing the button. It could be other reasons. It could be we just don't like the way we look or the way we sound. It took me ages to get over the way I sound. And so actually watching videos back and hearing myself took me a while to get used to. I still don't love the way I sound, but I certainly, now it's not so much of an issue for me. So there's that. It could be lots of other things, like, for example, I said perfectionism. It could be that you compare yourself with others. So this is something I struggled with a lot, and I looked at other live video experts out there, or just content creators, and thought, well, I'm not like that person. They're just so full of energy, and they've got a different way of doing things, or they're producing this amazing stuff, and I could never do that. So that stops some people from doing it. It could be the dreaded imposter syndrome, which a lot of people seem to struggle with. And just not everyone. I have met a few people that don't suffer from this, but this is basically just thinking that you're not worthy of going onto live video to share your expertise. And so I think all of those things can really stop you from getting in front of the camera. They're mindset issues. And I think we need to, first of all, just be aware that they exist, and then do something about it. But first of all, know that you're not alone. I have struggled with most of those things myself, and they still like to rear their head from time to time, but at least I know what they are, and I put things in place to try and stop them from happening. And then, of course, the other thing is there's the positive side. I mean, actually, if you get in front of the camera and you feel this nervous energy, you feel the fear, that's not always a bad thing, because the emotions of nervousness and excitement are actually quite related. And I always, I don't know if you found this, Janet, but I know you did a performance, you did a lot of music. And whenever I went on stage to sing a solo, I would always feel this fluttering of, butterflies in my tummy. And I actually learned that I needed that, because that gave me the energy that I needed to give my best. And so I think if you can I suppose what I'm trying to say is, if you can see your nerves as actually a positive thing and try and change that in your head, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. And that really, really helps. And of course, practicing, and there's loads of other tips we can talk about, but just seeing it like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I've certainly found that it's just something I've got better at with practice. And people have said to me like a million times, like, how do I do this? What advice would you give? The only way to do it is to do it. And I've got an analogy that I give with performance, actually. So I did a lot of music as a teenager, and also throughout my life, really. And I actually have never suffered with stage nerves for speaking or doing lives like this particularly, but I suffered terribly with it with music. I think it's because I lacked confidence in the training that I had, maybe compared to some of the other people that I was kind of competing alongside, if you like. And for me, what was the real changer was having a performance that went so badly wrong that it couldn't get any worse. Like literally freezing at the piano, like being at the piano and just having to stop and go, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to start again. And I kind of feel like that when that's happened, things can't be any. I've had it with singing as well. It's happened to me once with singing where literally it was just so bad. And after that, it was like, well, things can't be any worse than what happened that time. But you can only have that experience if you actually do it, can't you? It might be good actually if we just dip into the chat, because there's a few comments. We've got Kate saying that she's experienced imposter syndrome, I think. A few people saying that they've heard some experts. Is there anything in LinkedIn that we might want to pick up on about performance nerves or imposter syndrome or anything like that?
Daryl's also asking that, so I don't know whether we can get the link in LinkedIn as well. So I will try and do that. Daryl, thank you for asking that. I will put that link in later, but I'm not very good at multitasking. So let's look at some of the comments. Daryl says he loves StreamYard, and we've got Florence, who's a singing teacher, so that's great. And Matt says, I'm trying to break this barrier, not even fully sure what it is, but not for long. And I think that's a really good point, Matt, because I think you've got to learn to know yourself. You've got to do some work on yourself. You've got to understand what are the barriers. Just a quick story that I thought I was dealing with this whole confidence issue myself. And then about a year and a half ago, I was obsessed with improving my background. And I thought I need to sort out my background so that I look really professional, I look really cool. And so I didn't go live for a whole month because I was worried about my background. I was worried about my camera. And then it dawned on me, do you know what? It's nothing to do with that. I'm just actually worried about looking like a muppet in front of the camera, or I'm worried about not looking as good as these other people. It was comparison syndrome. It was all these other things. And so actually working out what the issues are for you as well is really, really important. We've got some more comments coming in there, and I think we've also got some comments on Facebook and YouTube and other places too.
Yeah, well, we're going to move on, and we're going to talk a little bit about tech in just a second. We've talked about some of the ways that you can kind of get over your nerves, and we are going to talk a little bit about how the tech can actually hold you back and how not to let it hold you back. But before we do, just a reminder, if you could share this broadcast, that would be brilliant. I can see on Facebook that about 8 people have shared it. If we could double that, that would be brilliant, and get it in front of more people. And the other thing as well is that Ian is going to be recommending, he's got some recommended resources, like some tips on video confidence, some tips on tech. And my very clever messenger bot can deliver that to you. So if you're watching it on my page, if you put live video into the chat, that will be delivered to you. And we've also got another link that we can put up on the screen, and can also put in the chat. And if you scroll up, it's there as well. It's kind of complicated to read out, but we'll put it on the screen. Ian will put it back on the screen in a second, and then Sam or Sarah in my team will share it as well. So let's talk a little bit about tech. Now, I think people will be able to relate to this when I share that it took me years actually to start doing video. And recently I sold one of those really fancy Sennheiser mic things. I think I've sold a camera that I wasn't using and some kind of microphone, which is probably about £500 worth of kit that I had bought thinking that I needed this stuff to do video. And it was probably only a year or two ago when I just realized that actually I had a really good quality mobile phone. And I mean, I don't even use a microphone most of the time because I'm a big believer in putting captions on everything anyway, particularly if it's pre-recorded, obviously put captions on it. And I realized that held me back for years, actually, just not even having the right kit, but how to set it up. Like, you know, you were mentioning to me before, Ian, you were talking about some camera that I might want to buy. And as soon as you started saying it, I started thinking, oh, but what if I don't know how to set it up? Which is just ridiculous, isn't it? We're always jumping ahead and we're always thinking, and so with the tech, like I think somebody said it to me, I interviewed somebody on my podcast recently, Helen from Not About the Kids, and she said that she took years to get on video and she's got all this stuff in a cupboard that she's never used. And then when she realized she could just literally just switch her phone on and record herself talking to camera, everything changed. And she just went outside in her garden. She didn't need fancy lighting. So can we talk about that, about, you know, where,
of course,
obviously you're a massive tech fan and geek, but actually it can hold you back a little bit if you get too bogged down in it to start, can't you?
Yeah, totally. So you can either be a total geek and love the tech, and that can get in the way, and you can get obsessed with all of that, trying to get it perfect, and then you never go live. Or you can be a bit of a technophobe, and you know you're so worried about the tech that you never get started. Or you could be somewhere in between. And so I think you just need to first of all know where you are, but second of all, just get started. You know, actually, some of the most engaged live videos that I've done, rather infuriating for me because I love my tech, is actually when I just pick my phone out and go for a walk and go live, you know. And so I did this yesterday and I got quite a lot of engagement. We had a really nice conversation because, you know, it was quite more of an intimate experience. It was raw, it was authentic. I didn't even have one of these nice little gimbals that you can like walk around with. I didn't have one of these things, which is called an iographer case, which creates a bit of stability. I didn't have any of that tech because I just decided to go live yesterday, and it was great. People loved it. People really enjoyed getting involved with it. They loved the raw and authentic feel. They loved the fact that sometimes I couldn't get my words out. I was trying to work out. It was the end of a long day and my brain had gone to mush. So actually it's about being you. It's about, I know everyone keeps going on about it, but actually authenticity is so important, particularly at the moment, but just generally, it's really important to be yourself. So if the tech is actually getting in the way, just stop it. Just go live and just use the tech that you've got. There are two things that you need basically to go live. And I do think you need to check these things because otherwise you are going to have problems. And the first one, the most important thing is to check your internet speed. So particularly your upload speed. So I know this can be a problem for some people. So the easiest way to do that is just to go to speedtest.net on your computer, or you could download the app for Android on iOS. It's completely free. And I use this all the time, and just check your internet speed. And the most important thing here is your upload speed, because if you think about it, you're broadcasting, you're uploading data. And what you need to be looking for, if you've got, it's a bit techie this, but if you've got 4 megabits per second of upload at least, then you should be okay. If you've got less than that, might have a few problems. So you just need to check that out. And that's really important, because what we don't want is for you to get into your live video and then keep getting cut out and people can't hear you. And that's going to be infuriating for you. It's going to be infuriating for your audience. And the second thing that you need is probably what everyone's got, which is a phone. You know, I mean, most modern phones, most modern iPhones and Android phones have a camera. They have the capability of going live on Facebook, on Instagram. And you can't do YouTube unless you have over 1,000 subscribers. But, you know, if you're going to go live on Facebook, all you need is a phone. And then it's just really knowing the differences between going live on your phone and going live on your computer. And that's maybe something we can talk about. There are advantages and disadvantages. But the main advantage, I think, with going live from your phone is, well, there's a few. First of all, it's really simple. because you just pick your phone out and you can go live. Second thing, it's nice and raw and authentic, and people love that as well. So those are the main reasons. And also, of course, the other thing is it's mobile, so it's great. You can go out and about, or you could give a tour of your office, your house, and do it that way.
Cool. Okay, so we've got a few questions to pick up on here. So Steve's asking who's the lady that you're interviewing. I'm actually interviewing him, but but I'm wondering if our names of should our names be under our faces? Do you think
that is
names?
a good idea? We can do that. We've got the technology for that. I just need to.
Yeah, this is live video. We're sorting it out as we go.
There we go.
There we go. So our names are on there. And I think I sent, you pasted some copy to say who I was, didn't you? So you have a little read of the thing above, and then you'll know who this lady is that Ian's. But I'm actually interviewing him, by the way. Just thought I'd.
Well, it's probably a bit confusing. It's probably a bit confusing because, of course, if you're watching on my page on YouTube or LinkedIn or whatever, then yes, it's probably a bit confusing. But of course, you were on my show yesterday, so twice in the same week. That's exciting.
Yes, twice in the same week. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about keeping it really simple and just going live from using the kit that you've got, using the your phone, not worrying about lighting, going outside, and that my best tip is just to stand in front of a window if you want to look younger, you want to look better. It's amazing. And even I know a lot of people would even worry about having a microphone, but actually I don't think you even need that as long as you're not in a really noisy place. And if it's going to hold you back from going live. But obviously, once you get more, you've got more experience. Obviously, if you can start to use some of these tools, you can start to do more things. So Ian has worked with me and coached me and mentored me. Although I'm confident at going live, I've got no problem jumping on camera, but I ran a couple of years running. I ran a Christmas market on my Facebook page where I was bringing in every day 6 different guests onto a broadcast, and they were selling from my page. And so that was a time when I thought, actually, I do need some help, just figuring out what's the best sort of combination of tech to use, and also just some help. Sort of, we did a few little practice runs together, and we practiced bringing people in and out and things like that. And this is the interesting thing. Things still went wrong. And, because I always think it's like live TV or live radio or whatever. And that's just part of it, isn't it? Things go wrong, and it's just whether you can keep your cool. And I remember people saying to me on my Christmas market, because I had a problem with the tech that I was using Ecamm, and there was a problem with it. And people were saying to me, I don't know how you're keeping your cool, but that's the thing. When you're live and you just have to deal with it there and then, your confidence grows so quickly because you have to think on your feet, and you just have to go with it, don't you? So there's so many advantages to it. But yeah, we're using Streamyard today. So might you talk a little bit about how, if you do want to kind of up the ante, you want to make it more like a show, you want to then maybe bring multiple guests in and turn it into like an event, like I did with mine. What are some of the things that you need to do?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in bootstrapping your live video studio. Start simply, as we've said, use a phone, and then the first thing I would probably do, if you're going to keep on using your phone, then you could always get a microphone. So a lapel microphone like this, I'll just hold it up to the screen. This is the Boya. Hold on, there we go. The Boya BY-M1. It's actually very inexpensive. It's a lapel mic that just plugs into your phone. And so if you're going to be doing mobile broadcasts on your phone, that's the first thing I would do, because actually audio, if you can enhance the audio, that's probably the first thing I would do. And then you could, if you're going to be doing mobile broadcasts, then something like this, which basically you just fit in your. This is the iOgrapher. Let me just go on to single view so you can see this a little bit better. But this is the iOgrapher case, and you just slot your phone in here like this, and then your camera pokes through there, if you can see, and that just gives you a little bit of stability. But yeah, it's good to know what the advantages and disadvantages between going live from your phone and your computer is. So one of the things, there's a few things that you can't do if you just go live from your phone. The first thing is you can't share your screen very easily unless you hold the camera up to your screen. If you want to do like how-to videos, that's a tricky one. You can't schedule your Facebook Live or YouTube Live videos. And that's something I really like to do, because that's what we did today, Janet. And that enabled us to then post out to our email list and post out on social media and give people that link. It also means you can use bots. Now, if you're just starting off, don't worry about bots, but that's something maybe you want to think about for the future. And there's a few other things that you can't do as well, and I've forgotten what they are, but those are the two main ones. Oh yes, the other thing that you can't do, of course, is to use fancy microphones and webcams and things like that. So if you want to kind of enhance the quality and adding things like we're doing at the moment. We've got some graphics on the screen. We've got our names on there. And of course, really importantly, it's actually impossible unless you're on Instagram. Instagram Live allows you to bring in guests. You can't bring in guests remotely on your phone anymore. Facebook used to allow this, but not anymore. So to answer your question, when it comes to going live on your computer, again, keep things super simple. If you're a PC user, I highly recommend using StreamYard, which is what we're using at the moment, because it works in the browser. It works really easily. You can bring in guests. You can have up to 5 guests on your show. You can highlight comments on the screen. On the paid version, you can even do things like multicasting, which is what we're doing today. I wouldn't recommend this for beginners, but this allows you to broadcast to more than one platform at the same time. Now, I said PC users. I still recommend StreamYard for Mac users, but if you are a Mac user, you already mentioned this, Janet, there's Ecamm Live. And I'm actually using Ecamm Live at the same time here, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Yeah, you gave me that look. But this allows you to do things like I can like, for example, share my screen like that, which will look a bit weird. Lots of me's there. But Ecamm is the tool I would recommend for Mac users because it allows you to do many cool things like share your screen and be able to use multiple cameras and nice microphones and things like that. It's really cool. And yeah, so StreamYard and Ecamm Live, both really good tools.
And one thing I would say is I wouldn't say I was a particularly techie person, but I've used Ecamm Live and StreamYard. I did pay Ian to coach me a little bit, just have a few one-off sessions just to kind of practice a few things and just to talk through a few scenarios, which I definitely would recommend if you are going to do something bigger than just kind of going live on your page. Like, I was running like an online event. I would suggest that's a good time probably to invest in somebody, just to kind of talk it through with you and to troubleshoot any potential potential problems. So that's definitely something that I've done. Yeah, it's definitely, I only started using StreamYard on Monday. And was it Monday? I made Ian get on we went live straight away, didn't we? And then I was going live from LinkedIn yesterday. I went live from LinkedIn. I've never done it before. And I just tried it to see if it worked or not. That's my approach. My approach to live video is just kind of do it and see what happens. Whereas Ian's a bit more measured than I am. I'm enjoying StreamYard more than Ecamm because I had a problem, and Paul mentioned this before, but I had a problem actually where there was an echo on it, and it was some kind of glitch, which was really causing me quite a lot of problems on my Christmas market. And I'm finding StreamYard just easier to use. It just feels more intuitive, but it is a personal choice, and that's why it's worth trying a few things out.
I would probably start with if you're worried about the tech, start with StreamYard because it's really easy to use. There are drawbacks, you can't add fancy graphics, and there's a few things that you can't do, but it's really easy to use and it's great. If you are a Mac user, I will say that actually since you used it, Ecamm's really improved. It's a very, very robust software, and actually in the next couple of weeks or maybe the next month or so, they are going to be, so at the moment, if you want to bring in a guest, you have to use Skype, but they are working on a new solution that will make it a little bit like StreamYard. So you'll be able to bring in your guests via the web, which is going to be great. And also you'll be able to multicast too. So yeah, don't let that worry you. They are working on those things too.
Cool. Okay. And as we were talking about bots, actually, just to remind you, so if you're watching on Facebook, I'm like one of those children's TV presenters. If you're watching on Facebook, if you type live video in the chat, if you're watching on my Facebook, then you will get delivered some goodies from Ian, which are some lead magnets that he's got, some kind of tip sheets and guides on live video confidence, but also on some of the tech that we're talking about now. So you get to, kind of list of all the different tech that you can try, and also some really useful blog posts. Ian writes these mega blog posts which take him, I wouldn't have the attention span to do it, but they take him weeks and weeks, and he gets so many hits to his website, but they're really, really useful. So we're going to send you those as well. And there's another link that you can follow if you're not on my page, Janet Murray. Then you can then you can we'll just give you a link, and that takes you into my clever bot, and it will deliver you all of the stuff that we're talking about today. So before we finish up, is there anything else that is worth? And hit share as well. That was the other thing to say. Hit share. Let other people find this video, because we find lots of people just love talking about tech as well, don't they? They love geeking out on the tech. And is there anything else that we haven't? We've talked about being confident on video and some tips around that if you feel a bit nervous. We've talked about some of the tech. Is there anything else that we haven't really covered?
Well, just a little bit more on the confidence side of things. One of the great things with that you can do before you go live is practice with Instagram stories, because although that's not live video, that's a great way of just getting you in front of the camera, learning to be consistent. And that's how I practice. That's a really good way. And the other thing, of course, is on Facebook. If you go to your profile and you go live on your personal profile, this is not your page, it has to be your profile, you can change the privacy settings to only me and do a test broadcast. And by the way, remember then to change the privacy settings back afterwards, but that's one thing. Or create a private group, like a test group, where you can go live in there. So that's a really good thing to do. And then of course you've got to think about, so the three main barriers I think people have is the confidence in front of the camera, it's the technology, don't overcomplicate things. And then the third one, of course, is the promotion side of things as well, and the content marketing. So there's loads of things that we could talk about when it comes to that. I'm just noticing a few links in comments. Christine is here. She says, Christine Gritman, she says, two of my favorite Brits and guests on my show this week. And she says, Janet's got the most soothing voice. Her podcast is hypnotic. And Campbell says, you can use fancy mics through a mixer on your phone. So yeah, you're right. But it's just, I think it's a little bit more, in my opinion, a bit convoluted to do that. There's always a way, but I think sometimes it can feel a bit almost too complicated, or you're trying to hack the system. So I like to keep, well, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I do like to kind of keep things simple. Or I certainly do with my clients. I mean, whether I like to keep things simple for myself is another matter. But
we've got a couple of other questions that I'd love to answer if you don't mind staying on for a few minutes. Is that all right? We've just got a few more questions. So Abney's asking about how to repurpose. So actually tomorrow, my guest tomorrow is Amy Woods from Content 10X, and she's repurposing as her thing. So we will go into that tomorrow. And I think if I'm right in saying that if you're on my page and you type reminder, I think my bot will give you a reminder. If you get into my bot somehow, it will remind you anyway about these 2 p.m. because I'm doing them every day in April. So we will talk about that, but I will ask Ian, just have you got any tips about what do you do with your videos once I mean, I know you take the live podcast we did yesterday, you turn that into an audio podcast, so you do all sorts of yours, don't you?
Yeah, this has taken a while to get into a rhythm with, but this is one of the major reasons why I do live video. I mean, that's the other thing. Why do live video? First of all, it allows you to get in front of your audience, for them to have access to you. There's so many reasons, but one big reason is the repurposing thing. And you mentioned that I have some very long articles, sometimes they're like 10,000 words or more. And they take a huge amount of time and resources to create. But the great thing about live video is, obviously, you've got to plan what you're going to talk about. But once you press the end broadcast button, you can then take that very easily and repurpose into a plethora of different content. So, for example, one of the things that I do is I turn it into a podcast. And there's a few things you need to think about. It's not always a good idea just to strip the audio out and then completely just put that as a podcast. You could do that, but that's one way you can do it. There's a great tool, by the way, if you're into tools, and it's called Descript, DESCRIPT, I think, .com. And with that, you can download the video. If you're using StreamYard or Ecamm, you can download the video in a high quality format, bung it in Descript. That will it'll actually transcribe all the words, and you can turn that into a podcast, and you can edit it really easily. Just if you, for example, want to just remove a phrase, you can just highlight the words in Descript and it will remove that from the podcast. It's amazing. So that's one thing that you could do. I publish it obviously on YouTube and different channels. I turn it into a blog post as well, because my blog is actually one of my most important resources. And then, of course, you can take little snippets out. So I use a tool. I think you use this tool. Do you use Headliner? Is it Headliner you use, or is it a few other? Yeah, so
Yeah,
Headline is a great
headliners.
tool. So you can like just edit little bits out of your video, upload that, and then I'll probably use a tool like rev.com to transcribe. I mean, it only costs $1.25 per minute, and so that's really cheap, quick and easy, just to get little videos to add on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and things like that. I could go on, but that's a good number of things to think about when you're repurposing.
And we will talk more about that tomorrow. We've got Amy Woods on. Content repurposing is her thing, so we will talk about that. I think there's just one other thing to think about is, and I'm regretting in a way, I'm doing these interviews every day, like during April, I'm thinking I should be repurposing them, but you have to have a thick bit of thought about it. So I know that when we recorded our podcast episode yesterday, you structured it in a way that would make it easier for you to edit it. And so you structured it in a way where we had a bit of an intro, a bit of a chat and a warm up, and then you kind of had, right, okay, now we're going into the interview. This is the bit that's going to be the interview. Because as you know, when you do it live, we had it before, you're kind of in and out, aren't you? And you kind of like, the first 5 minutes, you're often welcoming people in and asking people's questions. And there was one other question I wanted to take. It's Helen Wood's question. I'd love it if you put it up on the screen. But I just wanted to check, because I used to be a school teacher. I asked just to check if you were listening. Ian asked me a question yesterday, which I thought was really funny. And I'm going to ask you guys this question, which is not related to what we're talking about, but it's just to check if you're listening. If you had the choice between a banana and a Krispy Kreme donut, what would you choose? So if you had the choice between a banana and a Krispy Kreme donut, what would you choose? Let us know in the chat, because now I know that you're listening. If you put banana or Krispy Kreme donut, then but while they're just doing that, I want to see bananas and Krispy Kremes. I couldn't believe what other people said. I couldn't believe when Ian told me what most people had answered, and I was in the minority. So Abney says donut. Girl after my own heart, completely. Who would choose? I was like, who would choose a banana if you had a choice between a Krispy Kreme donut and a banana? Oh my god. Anyway, so just to finish up, I don't know if you could put see, look, everyone's like, you can tell I used to be a school teacher, just to check you're all listening. So just to finish up, Helen's question, Helen Wood, was what if I feel like a muppet, basically, because I do this live and nobody's there. I'm talking to a room of nobody. I've got some thoughts on this, Ian, but do you want to what if no one watches? I feel like such a muppet.
Well, thank you, Helen, for asking that question, because I think it's on a lot of our minds. And, I would be lying if I said I've never suffered from this. I totally have. I think you've got two problems, two potential problems. You either have nobody watching, or you have like over 100. Oh my goodness, there's so many. So whatever, what would actually be a good number for you to feel okay with? So the first thing is, when you start doing your live videos, the likelihood is you probably are going to get either 0 or low numbers. There are ways we can improve that, but to begin with, those are the live viewers. And just remember that when you broadcast live video, you actually have two audiences. You've got to split your brain almost like in a time machine, because you've got the people watching now and you've got the people from the future, the replay viewers. And so I always start my live shows saying, thank you so much for watching the replay, because the likelihood is the first people to watch are your replay audience. So if you have 0 people watching, don't worry, because you will have people watching in the future. So deliver it to them. But then the second thing is, make sure you promote it. There's no point just going live and expecting people just to drop everything and come and watch you. So make sure that you, first of all, that you put in the post, whether it's to Facebook or YouTube or whatever, what it is that you're going to discuss, so that people know whether it's worth watching, and then let people know. This is one advantage in going live from your computer, but because you can schedule that for in advance and let people know. But if you're going live from your phone, just let people know. I'm going on a walk this afternoon, and I'm going to be talking about, I don't know, whatever you're going to be talking about, and let people know that you're going to do it. And then you're more likely to get people. But don't forget the replay, because actually you'll probably get many more people watching in the future. And that can be really powerful. How about you, Janet? What are your views on that?
Well, of course, you know what I'm going to say here, but you need to build an audience. So if I don't worry about going live now, because even if I have a day when not that many people are watching, it's very unlikely that I'm going to have no one watching, because I've built an audience. And I know this sounds like I'm, saying the same thing over and over again. We talked about this a lot yesterday, me and Ian, in the interview that we did, but you need to, when you're first starting out and you don't have an audience, that's usually the next question. What if I don't have an audience? Then you need to go and drag your mum, your sister, your best friend, anyone that you can get, because the way the algorithm works on Facebook and any other platform is that the more comments and likes you get, the more interaction, the more it will say, oh, okay, people like this. I'm going to show it to more people. So that means that you literally have to go out and drag people to start off with. But if you consistently build your audience, and like Ian says, if you promote it, like even if you've only got 10 people to promote it to, before this broadcast went live today, we've both posted about it on all of our social media platforms. We've shared it into our groups. We probably haven't had to work as hard as maybe somebody who hasn't got an established audience, but we've still had to work and go and, you know, the analogy we gave yesterday is if you were running an event and you didn't, you know, you hadn't sold many tickets to it, what would you do? You'd go and get your friends to come and sit in the seats or something, wouldn't you? You know, to make it look busy. But when you first start building, let me know if that's helpful in the chat. You're not magically going to just get people turning up because you're on Facebook. If you haven't got much, you know, many likes on your page, or, you know, that's just the reality of the situation. But going live is one of the ways that you do build. And then did you notice what I've been doing like so many times the whole way through is please share this, please share this. Did you see how many times I've said it? Because every time one of you, and I'm asking you again if you share it, but every time one of you shares it, you're getting it in front of a new audience, and that's going to be potentially new likes on my page, new likes on Ian's pages, and we're going to build our audience. So you're going to have to do the same as well. And I just want to say, by the way, I can't believe so many of you would have a banana over a Krispy Kreme donut. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But anyway, so I think that's, you know, I'm always banging on about this all the time, but you have to build the audience. It isn't half as hard for us to promote this, but going live is one of the ways that you do build your audience, especially if you're reminding everybody to share all the time as well. So that's, you know, anything you want to add to that, Ian? I suppose we ought to finish soon, shouldn't we? But
yeah, no, I think we've said it all. I mean, so I think the big thing is grow your audience, but it's kind of a funny thing because you need to grow your audience in order to get more people watching your live videos, but actually doing live videos can actually grow your audience. So I would say be consistent. Actually, consistency is really important. Don't worry about how many viewers you're getting at the start. Just be consistent. Do a live video every week if you can, or even more often. Do promote it. But if you don't get many people watching live, don't worry. I'm going to be honest, the first few live videos that I didn't get that many, and it's grown over time. And sometimes I still don't get that many, depending on the algorithm. It can vary, but what I am is I'm consistent, and I also think about my live viewers, and I also think about repurposing that. I think about my podcast listeners as well. So yeah, keep doing that. Don't listen to that voice in your head that's saying nobody's listening, nobody's watching, because if you give into that, you're going to stop. But do try and learn from your mistakes. When the technology doesn't work, think, well, what can I do better next time? Or if you stumble over your words or something else happens, always think about improving it. But just start, just keep doing it and learn.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is, Joe Wicks, who's having 1 million people plus on his daily PE lessons. He was broadcasting, he says it himself, I've heard him say it so many times, he was broadcasting to an audience of 5 people that included his mum a few years ago. But if he hadn't actually carried on showing up and broadcasting and sharing his content, he wouldn't be breaking it in and have over 1 million people tuning into his daily PE lessons. We've all got to start somewhere. I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned, but my 400th podcast episode is going live tomorrow. But when I started, I was working at The Guardian at the time. I went around people's desks, bought cakes and said, if you listen to my podcast, I'll give you a cake. It was, nobody starts out off with loads of listeners or viewers or whatever. It was, and just one quick question before we finish up. Zoe is saying, do you think it's better to share pre-recorded videos first?
Well, yes and no, but I'm going to say no, because which might seem surprising. I know what you think about this, Janet, but actually, do you know what? If you're a perfectionist, I'm a perfectionist. I found pre-recorded videos would just be such a blockage, because I'd look at myself and edit them to death. And then at the end of it, I'd look like some kind of robot. So my opinion on this is just go live, and it will not be perfect. I promise you that. You will probably not like it, but it will be real. and you'll be able to create content very, very quickly, because that's the other thing. There's so many other things that we need to be doing. We need to be running our own businesses. So just do it. Don't, pre-recorded videos, I think is going to be a problem. I actually think that live video is a real, is going to help you if you are a perfectionist, and it's going to help you do it quickly.
And I know Zoe, and Zoe is a perfectionist, and I think Zoe does need to get live.
Right. Well,
I really think she does.
Yeah.
And I would also finish up by saying I recorded an IGTV video before, which is going up this afternoon. And I said to Ian just before, I recorded it in one take. It was like live. There was even a bit when I looked down because I couldn't remember what I was going to say. But I got oh my God. And it's pre-recorded, but I got my content out there. I shared the message. If you think about it, is it really worth me spending all day recording and re-recording an IGTV video that people are probably going to watch? They're going to get the message, and then in a few months' time, they're probably not going to care that much about it. So
Yeah, sorry, I just remembered the big thing about this, about being a perfectionist, because I call myself a recovering perfectionist, and the person that you are serving, if you are a perfectionist, is yourself. You're trying to you might feel better with yourself that you've made it supposedly perfect, but of course that doesn't exist. But then your audience are just waiting there for you to get the content out, and you're doing them a disservice. You could almost go as far as saying that you're being selfish, and I know that I've been like that. So you just got to get on with it, and just live video is definitely the way to do it.
And Paul's just said he's seen I hate my pre-recorded videos on YouTube. I absolutely hate them because, like Paul says, they don't feel like me. They don't feel like there's any personality in them. There's no spontaneity or whatever. And I absolutely hate them. I much prefer myself live. And now I take a live approach to recording, pre-recording. Right. Anyway, we better stop because we could go on all afternoon, but it's been brilliant. Had so many questions, so much interaction. So where can we find you if we need to know more about you? Ian, tell us, but also, I also ought to say, if you're on my Facebook page, then type live video into the chat and you will get delivered my bot. My bot will deliver you all the stuff, Ian stuff. And also we've got a dedicated link as well. So magic. So yeah, Ian, where can we find you if we want to know more about you?
So the easiest place is my website. It's very simple. It's just iag.me. That's my initials, Ian Anderson Gray. And all the blog posts are there that we've been talking about live video streaming tools and things like that. And yeah, my podcast is there. You can find that at iag.me/podcast. So that's called the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. And we discuss really the three main barriers. So the confidence in front of the camera, confidence with the tech, and confidence with the content and marketing. So yeah, and it'd be great to chat, and I'll try and get back to all the comments as well over the next few days, because there's loads of them. It's great.
Okay, I'm going to go and have a Krispy Kreme. I wish I could have a Krispy Kreme donut now. God, I wish I could. But I'm going to have my lunch now. So I will see you all later. I will see you tomorrow at 2:00. We'll be back with Amy from Content 10X. We'll be talking about content repurposing, and after that, I'm going to have a party. I'm going to have a podcast party. Over on Zoom. So we're going back to my place. We're going to Zoom for a party afterwards. Let me know in the chat if you think you'd like to come to the party afterwards, because we're going to be going over to Zoom and we're going to have a private party. We're going to have cake, but unfortunately you won't be able to eat any of my cake because because we're in lockdown. So anyway, really good to see you all, and thanks Ian so much for that. It's been great. Thanks for all setting it up as well, because it's been brilliant. So we'll see you later. Okay, take care. Bye everyone. Bye.